Imagine you are your grandfather. It's 1975. You're 25 years old. You work at a factory. No college degree. No college degree, no credit score. You walk into a bank wearing your work boots and ask for a mortgage. The banker looks at your single income, your calloused hands, and says, "Sure, here's the keys to a 3-bedroom house. Congratulations." Now imagine you're 25 today. You have a master's degree. You work 60 hours a week at a job that didn't exist 10 years ago. You have a credit score of 780. You've never missed a payment in your life. You walk into that same bank. The banker doesn't laugh at you. He doesn't need to. The math already did. Your grandfather spent 2 to 3 years of his salary on a house. You would need 8 to 10 years of yours. Same country, same dream. Completely different math. So what happened? Did houses get better? Did land become scarce? Did millennials just buy too much avocado toast? No. Someone rewrote the rules while you weren't looking, and today we're going to break down exactly who broke the math, how they did it, and why fixing it might be impossible. This is why you'll never afford a house. To understand how broken things are now, you have to understand how simple they used to be. In 1970, the median home price in America was around $23,000. The median household income was roughly $9,800. Do the math. That's a ratio of about 2.3 to 1. A house cost about 2 years of your salary. Let that satisfying number sit in your brain for a second. 2 years. A factory worker, a teacher, a mailman, they could walk into a bank with a single income and walk out with a house. The 30-year mortgage had just become standard. Down payments were 10 to 20%, which you could save in a couple of years. There were no credit scores, just a handshake and a steady paycheck. This was the era that created the phrase, the American dream. Work hard, buy a house, raise a family, die with something to leave behind. And here's the dark comedy of it all. Your grandparents weren't financial geniuses. They weren't more disciplined than you. They didn't work harder than you. They were just born in the only 30-year window in modern history when the math accidentally made sense for regular people. They think they earned it. They got lucky with timing. And they've been lecturing you about work ethic ever since. But then something changed. The house stopped being a place to live. It became something else entirely. A stock, an investment vehicle, a retirement plan. And that's when everything broke. In the 1980s, Wall Street discovered something beautiful. Your mortgage could be turned into a product. Before this, when a bank gave you a mortgage, they held it. Your debt sat on their books for 30 years. But some clever financial engineers realized they could bundle thousands of mortgages together and sell them to investors. Suddenly, your monthly payment wasn't just paying off your house. It was paying dividends to a pension fund in Norway. It was fueling returns for a hedge fund in Connecticut. Your debt became someone else's asset. And when mortgages became investment products, more money started chasing them. And when more money chases the same number of houses, prices go up. Here's how the feedback loop works. More investors buy mortgage securities. Banks have more money to lend. More loans chase the same houses. Prices rise. Homeowners feel rich because their house is worth more on paper. They borrow against that paper wealth. That money chases more houses. Prices rise again. Repeat until explosion. But the real trap wasn't Wall Street. It was your neighbors. See, existing homeowners figured out the game pretty quickly. If supply is restricted, prices go up. If prices go up, their net worth goes up. So they started showing up at every city council meeting, every zoning hearing, every planning commission. They screamed about traffic. They screamed about parking. They screamed about neighborhood character. But what they really meant was, don't you dare build anything that might lower my property value. Scenario time. Let's say you bought a house in 1985 for $80,000. By 2005, it's worth $300,000. You didn't add a room. You didn't renovate the kitchen. You didn't improve the neighborhood. You just sat there and made $220,000. Now be honest with yourself. Are you going to vote for more housing to be built next door? Are you going to welcome a new apartment complex that might increase supply and lower prices? Or are you going to protect your investment at all costs? This is the perverse math nobody talks about. For existing homeowners, high housing prices aren't a bug. They're the entire point. Your house isn't shelter anymore. It's your retirement plan. It's your kids' college fund. It's your whole net worth. Of course, they fight against anything that makes housing cheaper. They'd be fighting against themselves. This system worked beautifully. House prices went up every year. Everyone who owned felt rich. The economy hummed along on the fumes of imaginary wealth until 2008, when the whole machine exploded. And you'd think, after the worst financial crisis since the Great Depression, we would learn our lesson. We would fix the math. Yeah, about that. When the housing market crashed in 2008, prices fell 30 to 40% almost overnight. Banks collapsed. Lehman Brothers died. The global economy teetered on the edge of total annihilation. 10 million American families lost their homes to foreclosure. 10 million. That's not a statistic. That's a small country worth of people watching their front doors get padlocked. But here's the twisted part. For a brief, shining moment, houses were actually affordable again. Young people who had been priced out finally had a chance to buy. But they couldn't. Banks, terrified of another collapse, tightened lending standards to an extreme. If you didn't have a perfect credit score and a massive down payment, forget it. And young people in 2009, they had neither. They were graduating into the worst job market in generations. They were drowning in student debt that had tripled over the previous decade. They had no savings because they couldn't find jobs that paid enough to save. First-time buyers were locked out of their own opportunity, and into that vacuum stepped the vultures. While regular people were being denied mortgages, BlackRock, Blackstone, Invitation Homes, and a swarm of Wall Street investors were writing all-cash checks for foreclosed properties. They didn't need mortgages. They had billions in capital. In 2010 alone, institutional investors bought over 200,000 single-family homes. They scooped up entire neighborhoods in Phoenix, Atlanta, Las Vegas. They bought the houses that young families should have bought. And then they did something that changed the American economy forever. They didn't flip those houses. They rented them. Here's the math that should make you furious. You can't buy a house because you're paying rent. You're paying rent to a corporation that owns the house you wanted to buy. That corporation uses your rent as profit. They use that profit to buy more houses. More houses under their control means higher prices and higher rents. Higher rents mean you can't save for a down payment, which means you keep renting. It's a closed loop. A wealth extraction machine designed to convert your income into their equity, forever. But wait, it gets worse. After the crash, the Federal Reserve dropped interest rates to nearly zero. Then they printed money. A lot of money. They called it quantitative easing. Between 2008 and 2014, the Fed pumped over $4 trillion into the financial system. By 2024, their balance sheet had ballooned to nearly $9 trillion. Now, where do you think that money went? It didn't go into your paycheck. Wages barely moved for a decade. It went into assets, stocks, bonds, and real estate. If you owned a house in 2009 and held on to it, congratulations, your net worth doubled or tripled. We did nothing to earn it. The Fed simply inflated the value of everything you already owned. If you didn't own assets in 2009, you watched from the sidelines as the ladder was pulled up. The Fed printed trillions. None of it reached you. All of it reached the people who already had. And then came 2020. The pandemic should have crashed the housing market. People were dying. Businesses were closing. Unemployment hit levels not seen since the Great Depression. Instead, the Fed dropped rates to zero again. The government printed another $5 trillion in stimulus. Remote work let people flee expensive cities for cheaper suburbs. Everyone wanted more space at the same time. The result was the fastest home price appreciation in recorded history. Prices shot up 40% in 2 years. In some markets, 60 to 80%. Bidding wars became normal. All cash offers from investors became standard. Regular buyers were getting destroyed. And then, just when prices peaked, the Fed jacked interest rates to fight inflation. Mortgage rates went from 3 to over 7% in less than 2 years. And here's the final trap. Everyone who bought at 3% is now locked in. If they sell, they have to buy at 7%. Their monthly payment would nearly double for the same house. So nobody sells. Supply collapsed. But prices didn't fall because nobody is listing. You're not competing against other buyers anymore. You're competing against nobody selling. The market is frozen. And you're stuck outside, watching through the window. Okay, let's stop talking theory and look at the actual math. The real numbers, because this is where hope goes to die. The median home price in America right now is roughly $440,000. Let's say you're a responsible person. You want to put down $20,000 to avoid private mortgage insurance. That's $84,000 in cash. Before you even talk about closing costs. The median household income in America is about $75,000. Let's say you're extremely disciplined. You save 15% of your gross income every year. That's $11,250 per year going into your down payment fund. At that rate, it takes you 7.5 years to save $84,000. 7.5 years. And here's the joke. That assumes housing prices freeze while you're saving. They won't. They've been rising 5 to 8% annually. By the time you save $84,000, you'll need $110,000. The goalpost moves faster than you can run. But let's say you somehow get the down payment. Let's look at the monthly payment. In 2020, if you bought a $400,000 house with 20% down and a 3% mortgage rate, your monthly payment was around $1,350. Today, same house, same down payment, but with a 7% rate, your monthly payment is $20,130. That's $800 more per month. For the exact same house, that's $9,600 per year. That used to go into your savings, your retirement, your life. Now it goes to the bank, and this is where the generational wealth gap becomes a canyon. According to the Federal Reserve, baby boomers currently hold about 52% of all household wealth in America. Millennials, who are now in their 30s and early 40s, hold 6%. Gen Z holds less than 1%. Home ownership for Americans under 35 is at the lowest level since the 1960s. Not because young people don't want houses, because the math won't let them in. And here's the part that should make you angry. This isn't just an American problem. Look at Canada. The average home price in Toronto is over $1 million Canadian. In Vancouver, it's worse. Young Canadians are fleeing to other countries because they've accepted they'll never own property in their own cities. Look at Australia. Sydney and Melbourne have some of the worst affordability ratios in the developed world. Look at the UK. London is a playground for foreign investors and inherited wealth. So can this be fixed? Technically, yes. The solutions are obvious. Build more housing, tax speculation, limit corporate buyers, override local zoning, end an NIMBY stranglehold. But here's the political reality that nobody wants to say out loud. Homeowners are about 65% of the voting population, and their entire net worth, their retirement security, their children's inheritance, all of it depends on home prices staying high. Any politician who proposes policies that would actually lower home prices is proposing to make the majority of voters poor. That's not a policy platform. That's a suicide note. You cannot win an election by promising to destroy the wealth of the people who show up to vote. And homeowners show up. Renters don't. The system is designed to perpetuate itself. So let's go back to where we started. Your grandfather, 1975. Factory job. No degree, no credit score, keys to a house. He didn't know it at the time, but he was living in a 30-year anomaly. A brief window where the math accidentally worked for regular people, where a house was shelter, not a stock, where one income could build a life. That window closed in the 1980s. And every policy since then, every tax break, every zoning law, every Fed intervention, has been designed to make sure it never opens again. The math isn't broken by accident. It's broken on purpose. High home prices aren't a policy failure. They're someone's retirement plan. High rents aren't a market inefficiency. They're someone's passive income. Your inability to buy a house isn't a bug in the system. It's someone's investment thesis working exactly as designed. The American dream wasn't killed. It was purchased, securitized, bundled into a mortgage-backed security, and sold to a pension fund in Denmark. And now they rent it back to you at a 40% premium, with a 5% annual increase. And the worst part? They convinced your parents that you just don't work hard enough. You'll never afford a house. Not because you failed. Not because you're lazy. Not because you bought too many lattes. You'll never afford a house because you were never supposed to. The math was broken before you were born. They just forgot to tell you. If this video made you angry, good. You're paying attention. If you want to understand how the economic system is designed to extract wealth from your generation, make sure you subscribe. We're doing a full series on the wealth transfer, the retirement crisis, and why the 401k won't save you either. I want to hear from you, renters. Have you given up on ever buying? Homeowners, be honest. Would you vote for policies that lowered your home's value even if it helped your kids afford a house? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.